Hey everyone, how you doing today? As promised yesterday in the daily financial news, I'm going to make an attempt to talk to some newbies, some new investors that are a part of my course. Really talk about where they're at, what they're doing. The whole intention of this is to help others, right? This will probably end up in a playlist called New Investors or Questions. I'm not really sure where this is going. I just know when you have good intentions, you work with good people, good stuff happens. So let's bring on Nathan, who actually sent over this idea originally. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing great. So thank you first off for sending over the idea. You're absolutely right. My intention and focus of both the book, the course, and really the channel is on new investors. So I think you're right. I think a playlist is going to be formed. I have, I think, 4 calls tentatively scheduled for Sunday, but this is the first one. So thank you for that idea.
Absolutely. Glad there was interest, and
Yeah.
hopefully I can provide some sort of value talking to you now.
I'm sure you will. Well, why don't you do us a favor and let's baseline you, Nathan. Where are you? What is your experience? What did you come to the course with? All of that first.
Sure. So I guess to start, so my wife and I, we are new, consider ourselves newbies. We actually own and hold two single-family rentals out in the Midwest. Both of those were purchased late 2020, so less than 6 months ago. I think for us, most of our journey has been, from maybe starting 2 years ago-ish. Oh, this thing real estate. Oh, this thing real estate investing. Yeah, maybe one day. Sure, maybe. And we also purchased a condo in the Bay Area where we live with the intent of potentially either renting that out when we move to a larger home, or keep it, or sell it if there was enough appreciation. So we kind of started with that condo as our first kind of foray into thinking about real estate investing. And then about a year ago, stumbled upon, I think it was Rooftop Academy, then your course, and then I just went into education mode for about 6 months, 8 months. Read everything, every Bigger Pockets blog, every course, every channel in the course, right, or every section in the course. I mean, every single podcast I could get on, webinar, you name it, probably fairly standard. And
Yeah.
then I got lost, frankly, because there's just so much.
Yeah.
And then at one point we were like, yeah, let's just pull the trigger and we see what happens. And we went from zero to two within 3 weeks, I think.
All right. Well, let's talk about that experience because, frankly, some of that, all of that is familiar, but that ending kind of scares me a little bit. Let's just pull the trigger. Uh, that's
Absolutely.
not what I want for most people. So let's
Absolutely.
yeah. So let's talk about that. Where in the Midwest, at least state or city, or what are we talking?
Missouri and Indiana. So Northwest Indiana is one market that we're interested in, and St. Louis, Missouri is
Oh,
another.
okay, very cool. And then, so what did we buy? Single family home, sub 100K.
Single, no, there were, so single family homes, yes. One was a 3.2 at about 150K,
Okay.
and one was a 4.2 at about 130K.
Okay. All right. And let's just kind of round out the story about these. Were they, 70-year-old homes, new builds? What was kind of the story there?
Old, the
Okay.
older vintage type, right? The
Okay.
about 70 years old, I think, on both, if
All
I'm
right.
not
And
mistaken.
were these kind of off roof stocks? So they were what I call pride of ownership, ready to go, or were they remodeled, like heavy fixers, or what were they?
They were advertised as such. The experience, of course, was not exactly that. What happened was, and when I said pull the trigger, right, that's the feeling that I had when we actually did it, because I was getting to that analysis paralysis mode, right? I felt like we had
Oh, I've been there.
read
I know.
enough. Yeah, felt like we had read enough, learned enough, tried enough, talked to, enough people to kind of be like, I'm just getting another version of the same story. So at one point, what's changing?
Yeah.
So we just have to do it. And when we just did it, it really was more about, we had been analyzing deals, a lot every day. I was looking, sharing with my wife.
Awesome.
And one just happened to fit kind of our criteria and our box. And then, so I had my eye on that one. And then it was mostly from building the team. So interviewing, property managers, lenders, contractors, kind of your core team that's needed to run, real estate investments. And for me, because I'm a people person, people manager in my W-2. I believe in people very much. What actually helped us pull the trigger was the property manager in Northwest Indiana on the first property, because they were just fantastic. And like on the phone, everything was great. It was like, oh, and you can manage this. So yeah, let's do it. So because I like the property manager, kind of chose to go with them, is what tipped me over the edge. The numbers worked. We said, okay, let's just go do it. And
Okay,
that's
so
really how we got the first
that
one.
is far better than the uneasiness I had earlier when you said, we just pulled the trigger.
It was, that's not my personality. So no.
Well, that's good, because I mean, I wrote about it in our book, right? I call it wasting a year, right? In our story in 2002, we waste a year looking in the Bay Area. It just didn't work. We go to Fresno, we see one available house. I'm like, okay, well, we'll just come back. We'll look at more. And Olivia's like, no, if you don't offer on this house, I'm never coming back. So I literally did that. I'm like, I guess I got to offer on the house. So I knew what that felt like. So what I heard you say in that longer explanation is you did have a box. All right. You did have a
Correct.
criteria, I guess. That is, frankly, the number one goal of my course, is to develop that box. So do you remember what the box was? Was it a yield, a cash flow number? What was that box for you?
I think the two important things for us that I remember, right, and I could pull it up, but I don't want to waste the time too, but it was the free cash flow monthly. We were aiming for 250.
Okay.
And that was important to us because from what I had understood and read and just, thinking about, owning a rental property, I wanted that large enough buffer should something happen.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want, $10 in free cash flow. I wasn't looking for $1,000 in free cash flow, but I knew that, if I could get to 200, 250, I'd have a bit of that buffer. So that was a big goal of ours
Mm-hmm.
in our box, or one of the important numbers
Yeah.
in the box. The other one was because, frankly, we didn't know any better, didn't know what sort of yield or cash on cash returns or return on investment, pick your favorite term, we could expect to have. We also went into the first deal from a mindset of, we're learning here. It's not going to be a home run. We're not going to get 25%, yield like everybody talks about on Bigger Pockets and all the blogs known to man, right? So he said, hey, stock market averages what, 6, 7, 8%,
Yeah.
something like that. I don't know much about the stock market. So I said, let's try to get at least that. So the other number that we're kind of looking at was to get a 6% cash on cash.
Oh, I love
And I
that.
know depending on who we talk to, that'll be, oh, that's terrible. And other people will say, yeah, that's fine for us. It's fine. So at least we learned more
Yeah.
hitting those numbers than, the numbers themselves being the important thing.
So there's a lot in that I want people to hear. First and foremost, for me, it's yield, as you know. You have to pick your number, right? And the work for me, when you decide on a city and an area and a box, is what I'll tell you as you go forward, and you've heard me say this a dozen times, this is mainly for other investors watching this, is go learn average, right? If your market average is 6, you could do a deal at 6. Those will be easier to do. Those are more plentiful, hence average. But over time, maybe by your second, your third, or your fourth, you should be doing either good or great deals, right? So if Northwest Indiana or Missouri is, or St. Louis is 6, hopefully what we're trying to do next time is 7 or 7.5 or 8, because you don't have to say yes to everything. Everybody's capital eventually blows out. So you want to do things that are just slightly better. Has that come across in everything I teach?
Yeah, absolutely. Because in fact, the second property that we purchased, we weren't in a place where we're looking to purchase a second one then, right? We knew we were going to grow. We were barely signing and closing on the first, but because we had been, and I had been looking at the market in St. Louis daily, because it's a market that I have, interest in for a number of reasons. This one property, again, it was on roof stock. It doesn't matter where it pops up, but I would happen to see it. And the property itself stuck out as being a potential for a great deal, because it just didn't seem, from what I knew, what other similar properties typically sold for. And then, kind of validating that, looking at Zillow, Realtor, Redfin, doesn't really matter, that it felt really like a good deal, and did our due diligence on that one, and then pulled the trigger because it was a great deal.
Awesome.
And, I was saying we did, we're looking at 6% cash on the first property. The second one, I think, if all goes well, they're very new, so we can't, we don't have a year into them yet, or several years into them yet to understand really. But we're looking at the pro forma saying something like 14 to 17% cash on cash.
There we go. That would be a great deal. Absolutely. The other thing that was important in that outline, I want other investors to hear, is stop comparing yourself to other people on Bigger Pockets or YouTube University or whatever it is. You need to sit down with you and your significant other, or you if you're single, and decide on what your box is. If you freaking go on Bigger Pockets, half the people telling you it's stupid or a bad number don't own shit, right? They're just there talking heads trying to sound smart. It's not there, right? And go ahead.
There's that, and the other thing that I got sidetracked by, so there's all the big flashy numbers that people talk about, right? Because it looks good, it sounds good, it makes me feel good, great, awesome at what I do, whatever. Whether it's those, or even in some cases, some of those turnkey providers, what is never said is how they're getting to that number.
Right.
So we have no idea if they're $750, free cash flow is with reserves or without reserves. We don't know if it's accounting for vacancy or not. So of course I could say, maybe we have 30%, cash on cash or yield on this property if I ignore everything else, right?
Right.
And that's what at first threw me off, because I was looking at 6, 7, 8%, yields, and I was like, yeah, but everybody's talking about 20. What am I doing wrong? Right? Let me keep looking, right? And I kind of turned that off when I understood. So
yeah. So again, folks, step one of my course, and what likely a lot of these new investors are going to hear from me on Sunday, because the ones I'm talking to on Sunday, based on my memory, don't have anything yet. So what you'll hear it just because of the way we're going with this probably playlist, is number one key is focus. And but what I mean by focus is not only know your box in your area, but also ignore everything else. When you decide you're going to be a buy and hold, one rental at a time follower or course, or do the work and all that stuff, part of that is permission to stop with the noise and stop trying to go 50 different directions. And frankly, in the beginning, stop looking at 2 different or 3 different cities. Your job is to build a skill of learning average. And once you've done that in one market, you can do it anywhere you want, but you don't get there by comparing St. Louis with Austin, Austin with LA, LA with Miami, right? Most new investors I talk to, and we'll find out on Sunday, they need to tighten up their focus and let a lot of stuff go.
yeah, that was one of the hardest things, focus. I mean, in that year of, I think you called it the wasted year, right? I don't know that I would qualify it that way, because it kind of got us started. So that's the most important.
Sure.
But there's a lot of that time in that year was wasted, in the sense that, yeah, I was looking at note investing and REIT investing and multifamily, and like, okay, I don't know. I don't know.
You just get all
anymore,
confused,
right?
and jumbled.
And then it was back to basically listening to you, frankly, and the one rental at a time, channel, and the story in the book, right? Where it's like, well, yeah, single family is an easier asset for us to understand, because it's just one thing. It's one house, one furnace, one AC, one thing, one address, one contract, all of that. And they're also easier to sell. In
Just in
theory,
case.
I guess, as an asset. So it's like, okay, even if it, yeah. So we were like, yeah, let's just stick with that instead of trying to go all over. And we just had recently had 2 children. So one's 3, one's 1. So they're young kids, and like, yeah, we'd like a home, right? Not a small home, not a massive home, but something large enough. So then we lasered in on 3 2s, which is kind of your middle of the road. And that's now what we're looking at.
That's awesome. So the other thing that's important that I want to make people hear about, and you've already touched on it, but we're going to hit it again, is daily execution, right? Once you get down on your area, it is vital for me. It's not total hours a week invested, because I talk to people all the time. We're like, dude, Michael, you don't understand. I can't do it Monday through Friday, but I'm willing to give you 10 hours Saturday and Sunday. Nope, doesn't count. What I need you to do once you laser in on an area is give me 10 to 20 minutes a day. And I don't know where you come down on that.
Yeah, so for me, actually, the try to cram everything in on Saturday because that's the only day I can actually doesn't work, because I found that I do a lesser job when I'm looking at the market because there's just too much. Because I'm now looking at 35 properties that had activity on in my market during that week,
Right.
and I'm doing the first very diligently, reading everything, understanding everything, second maybe, and then when I get to number 30, I'm like, yeah, I'm just skimming through it. I'm like, I'm tired of this, right? So
Yeah.
it actually just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
yeah, for me, I would say I'm also an inbox zero guy, right? So when I get one listing that pops up on my inbox, I want to look at it, put it in the spreadsheet, understand how it compares. And often that's when I wake up in the morning, right? Like these various systems or the Zillow Realtor or the MLS directly will send emails in the morning. So I'm getting them. I do the 20 minutes with coffee in the morning, 10
Exactly.
minutes, depending on how many popped in. And then I get on with the kids
Yeah.
and
No,
my
and
day. So
that is exactly what I want. That what you've just described is what I'm hoping everybody gets to. Everybody starts this journey with thinking, they're going to do it slightly differently. It's fine. But hopefully where you end up is you do have a process, whether it's 6 a.m. with coffee, like it was for me, or maybe you're a night person like my wife, right? God, if she had to do something at 6 a.m., life would end. She's not a morning person, right? But for her, 11 o'clock, same deal, right? Everybody else is asleep. She could do it. So know thyself. But yeah, it has to be daily. It's the only time you can give it focus attention. It's the only, you get 3 or 4, and it's critical.
the other thing that I noticed as well in our markets, right, is that there's not the same activity that happens every day, right? So for example, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, there might be 2 or 3 properties listed, and Friday, Saturday, there's 20.
Yeah.
Right. And those things I wouldn't notice if I were just doing all of this once, right? So, or one day a week.
Yeah. And a lot of this, what people don't realize, why I'm trying to get daily habits, is it will eventually compound, right? The learnings and the
Yeah.
subtleties that you will see in the market will just start to compound. And I don't know when it is. For some people, it's 30 days. Some people, it's 60 days. You really become dangerous on your focus. 3, 4 bedrooms, in your case, single family homes, and I'm sure certain zip codes. You could probably go toe to toe with 99 out of 100 real estate agents at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to sound pretentious, but I feel like the
I
few
will.
that I've talked to, I mean, because I'm building this spreadsheet and it's been over, following the Zuber method, right? The one rental at a time method. Right now, this spreadsheet that's 6, 8 months old or something like that
Yeah.
has, a large amount of data in it, which gives me one view into the market. When I'm talking to realtors, sometimes I get the impression that I know more, and I'm saying, go look at these for me, please, because I know they've been sitting for 60 days when everything sells in 3 days, right? So that's interesting. Go look at that.
Exactly.
And that's not necessarily the vantage point that real estate agents come from. I don't
No,
think, at least in my experience. So
no, it's not. I mean, let's be honest. Most real estate agents in general aren't investors. Most real estate agents aren't focused on a very minute set of data. So it's no fault of their own. Their business model, their paychecks aren't reliant on being micro focused. Our job as investors who have full-time jobs and limited capital is to be the best and smartest on our box. Know our box. And then we're networking with people, as you say, people person, because this is a people business, to answer deeper questions that we don't know. Just because something's on there 60 days and it fits your criteria doesn't mean it's a
exactly.
great deal, but they should at least go look at it because they're on the ground that this is what I want. So next thing to talk about, which I hope happens, is you're doing this journey with your significant other, your wife. I'm going to
Yes.
guess that if you wanted to, and I don't know if you have done this, but if you wanted to, you could take this spreadsheet of 6 or 8 months, tell her what the top 5 deals potentially are and what the bottom 5 are, and you could tell her why.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So not only so my knowledge has grown, with regards to the market and what comes and goes there. So it's easier for me to talk to those things, right? But also over time, the spreadsheet has evolved right? Learning from past experiences where we're adding bells and whistles, like sorting, filtering, stuff like that, which is very small. But then I pull it up, click sort by best yield, and then we have them and they're there and we talk about it, and then we have notes and we're like, yeah, this one's interesting because it has a great basement. So let's go after that one first, right?
Exactly.
Or something like that. And then we just, take the top 5 and say, we're writing 5 offers and we'll see what happens.
I'm so happy.
And
this is what I hope everybody does. This right here.
And yeah, not to make it about the spreadsheet, right?
No.
Because that's just the tool. But
yeah, it's a thing. Yeah.
when you get familiar with it, it just becomes super easy. Like we've built in automated, color coding so that when the numbers reach our box, then that row just highlights. So we're just like, hey, we know I don't even have to look at everything else. It's working.
Yeah. Oh, see, this is where I want you to go. Now, folks, realize you don't start here. Most people come into this, they're going, hey, like Nathan talked about, hey, I'm interested in it. I've been all over the place. I'm not getting anywhere. What happens? Well, one rental at a time is going to ask you to focus. You're going to declare what it is. And then you're just going to do daily execute, and the spreadsheet will build over time. And again, I give you mine, but I only give you mine because, well, first off, you plunk down $200. Well, I might as well give you mine, but mine's nothing special. It's like 12 columns or 13 columns. Most folks are going to tweak it to fit their needs. And as I talk about, you should, right? Make it yours. It's not about copying mine. Mine works for me. It may not work for anybody else, but damn it, that last column, yield, that one's important.
Yeah, I think for us, what the one rental at a time process really helped with is it really makes the whole getting started easy, because there really isn't much to do. No offense, of course, to the course, right,
No.
Michael? But I'm saying it's one spreadsheet, rows and 12 columns, and then you just look at houses every day for 10 minutes. It's not hard.
Yeah. Well,
and
that's
it's just
no
because we
offense.
do.
That's awesome.
Well, yeah, and the point being is when we were lost in all the things real estate that we could possibly invest in. Sorry, I was like, well, this process seems pretty straightforward, so let's try that. And that just helped us laser focus. And now we're still mostly ignoring everything else, right? Because we want to kind of grow as we are, and kind of the things that we know now. We don't want to go from 0 to 60 quite too fast, right? We want to kind of learn the ropes.
Yeah.
It'll take time.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's been fun. And it's helped already, because we've identified in one of our markets that just a neighboring zip had way more potential than the one we were looking at.
Awesome.
So just, looking at that 1 or 2 zip codes every day, then we started looking at the one neighboring zip, and numbers made more sense. We're like, okay, let's move here now and look at this more. And that just happened. It was zero effort, because just looking at it daily, but now I understand that.
There you go. Well, let's talk about some other things. So you unlike the people I'm going to talk to on Sunday, I believe you've done a couple of transactions. So actually, having completed them, there may be some subtleties or differences in completing the transaction that you went through, details and mobile notaries and all these other things. Let's just get that on record, that others may experience. I know you had a couple of things that I chuckled at before we hit record.
Yeah, and they're small things, but again, and I'm sure they're different in every transaction, every given lender, any given, title company, state's property, it will change.
Sure.
But it's things that we weren't prepared for. And we also noticed that despite having, automation and computers all over the place, there's still a lot of room for human error in real estate investing. And I think the first kind of thing that jumped out at me in our very first purchase, right, is the contract, the purchase and sale agreement for buying that property had the incorrect parcel number. So basically the unique identifier for the home was incorrect on the first paper that we were to sign for buying this thing, and took a lot of back and forth, us digging on like the tax records, sites and whatnot to show, yeah, the address had 2 different parcel numbers. One is a small lot. I don't know what it is. I'm not interested, but there's another one that is the actual home. So please use that one. We're not signing anything until that one's on the paper. Things like when we bought these in the middle of COVID, so everything was shut down, traveling notaries and whatnot. And for the state, at least this state where we purchased the first home, for signing all the documents at close, we needed a witness. And it was just me, my wife, and the traveling notary. And like, okay, who are we gonna ask? And we just happened to have somebody. So that and turned out, but it's things like that.
Yeah. So other things to think about, you now have these couple of rental homes. Any experience with renters and tenants and things of that nature?
Um, the one of the experiences that I alluded to, the home was advertised as turnkey or as such. Being a bit hyperbolic there, but we looked at the inspection report, and all things seemed perfectly fine. And then when we acquired the property and got hold of the keys and whatnot, we had to walk through. We weren't there physically, right? This is remote, but the property manager did a walkthrough and found a bunch of other things. So there was more work to be done on the home than we had anticipated, despite having a full inspection report.
Yeah.
So we did a bit there, and then that property turned into, well, if we just remodeled this bathroom, then we could increase rents, $200. Or like, well, might as well do that before we place a tenant. So we started doing these aspects of a remote, small remodel, right? Which was interesting, right? So those are just things that we weren't anticipating.
Yeah.
But then again, it was just going back to the spreadsheet and the numbers, and we're looking at what it would cost to do the job and what it would return. And we're like, yeah, that takes it from a 12% yield to 14 or 17. So
there you go.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
And we're learning that way. So yeah, I think the big learnings for us as well is really check the documents that you receive and sign, because there's quite a few errors. Other things I'm trying to remember, a first property as well. One thing that I had no idea, but for example, the seller of the property through title was not going to pay the property taxes in escrow, right? That money was going to come back to us as a deduction for us to pay the due property taxes. So I didn't know that until I got a letter saying, hey, you owe property taxes on this. So it was one of those things. Well, I didn't know to look out for that. So
Right.
let's look out for that from now on, right? And we're kind of building our list of,
Yeah.
well, this happened, so we learned this now.
Yeah. Very cool.
Let's remember it for next time.
Very cool. Oh, this has been so much fun. This is what I was hoping is going to happen, and we'll see that this happens on Sunday as well. It's just taking the kind of bare bones of what the course is, the simplicity of it, the repetition and the learnings, right? Focus, repetition. And then what do you get out of it? You start understanding what a good deal, a bad deal is. You start using your time more wisely. I'm guessing, I guess we're going to find out. If you look at your total weekly spend on real estate investing now versus before when you were unfocused, I'm guessing you're spending less time now and you're more effective now.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So it's on kind of the acquisition side, or learning, understanding the market, looking for the next property, or trying to learn real estate investing as a whole. Absolutely. It's a fraction now compared to what it was in that first year, right?
Yep.
We are spending more time learning how to manage the property managers, right? Or those properties now, because that's all new. The books, the expenses, things like that. But it's not a lot. I mean, it's 20 minutes a month.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not a lot. It's just there's more stuff coming in, right?
Well, now you're a landlord. It comes with additional things you've never done before.
Absolutely.
Yeah. This has been fun, man. Any closing thoughts or maybe questions you have that's sprung up? I want to make sure you get value out of this, because I think you've given a lot of value to others.
I don't know that I have any questions right now. The only, I guess, piece of advice, because I've been there not long ago at all, is focus and take action. Really, it's take that
daily
first
action.
Step. Yeah, daily action. Take that first step and do it. Yeah.
All right, Nathan. Well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you. It's a great idea. I look forward to this being
absolutely.
a
Thank you,
playlist.
Michael. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Absolutely.